I didn't realize how used I'd become to watching her walk away, until the day she didn't look back. I know how that sounds. Dramatic. A little pathetic. But that's the thought that hit me the moment she stepped out of the doorway of the repair shop, her heels tapping once, twice, then fading. And for the first time in months, I didn't follow her with some dumb question or excuse. I just stood there, hands dirty with engine grease, pretending I had something important to tighten. She didn't wait this time. She didn't even pause. And somehow, that got under my skin more than all the time she did. Her name's Nadia, though she never introduced herself that way. It was printed on the small tag hanging off her keychain, the one she kept handing me whenever she brought in her car for minor things. Things that barely counted as repairs. A loose mirror, a stubborn trunk latch, a clicking sound that mysteriously vanished whenever I tried to hear it. She always came alone, always late afternoon, always with that same composed half-smile that made me straighten up without meaning to. The shop was quieter than usual the day. Everything felt different. The guys had gone to lunch, leaving me to shuffle invoices behind the counter. Dust floated in the sunlight like the whole room was holding its breath. I heard her footsteps before I saw her, confident, measured, almost echoing in the empty space. "Is today a bad time?" she asked, pushing her sunglasses up into her hair. No, it's fine," I said too quickly. My voice cracked, which was great. Professional. Extremely adult. Her car didn't need anything major, just a loose headlight casing. I told her to give me 20 minutes, and she gave me that quiet nod she always gave, like she trusted me more than she should. She walked around the shop while I worked, fingertips brushing over old metal signage, abandoned parts, and a vintage radio that never tuned to the same station twice. She wasn't nosy, just curious in a careful way, like she didn't want to disturb anything she touched. When I finished, I wiped my hands on my coveralls and walked over to her. She was standing near the open garage door, looking out at the parking lot like she wasn't in any hurry to leave. "All good?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just needed tightening." She gave a small smile. Not wide. She wasn't that kind of person. More like a private smile she wasn't sure she should share with me. Then came the moment I keep replaying. I handed back her keys, and our fingers brushed. Not a dramatic brush, not a movie moment spark, just the soft, brief touch of someone who hadn't expected contact at all. But she pulled back half a second later than necessary. Not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough for me. Her eyes lifted to mine, paused, held. There's no good explanation for why a person looking at you can make every small sound in the room disappear. But that's what happened. The radio hummed into static. The dangling metal tools stopped clinking in the draft. It felt like the two of us were balancing on the edge of a sentence no one wanted to finish. "You always look so serious," she said softly. "Has anyone told you that?" I laughed, but it came out thin. "Working with engines kind of forces it." "I guess," she murmured, studying me for a second longer than she should have. Then she stepped back, smoothing a wrinkle on her sleeve like she needed something to do with her hands. "Well, thank you." That was it. No back and forth. No lingering questions. Just that. She turned, pushed the door open, and left. I didn't chase her. I didn't call after her like I usually do. But all evening, while I cleaned the shop, closed the register, and tried to focus on anything else, one thing kept replaying in my head. The way her fingers hesitated on mine before she pulled away. I shouldn't be thinking about that. But I am. And I can't stop. She came back 3 days later. Not for repairs this time. At least, nothing that made sense. The shop was closing early because of a power issue. Half the lights flickered, the radio was dead, and the air smelled faintly of dust and warm metal. I was sweeping near the back when the door opened with a soft chime, and there she was, framed in the dim doorway like she wasn't sure she should step inside. "Nadia," I said before I could stop myself. Her eyes lifted, a little surprised I remembered her name. Or maybe surprised I was the only one here. "I wasn't sure you'd still be open," she said. Her voice was calm, but there was something underneath it, an edge, a hesitation, like she'd rehearsed this visit on the drive over. I wiped my hands on a rag. "We're having a weird day with the power, but yeah, I'm here." She held her keys loosely, not offering them. "It's the radio this time." It keeps cutting out. A pause. It's probably nothing. It probably was nothing. But I nodded anyway. She didn't step forward. I had to walk to her. Up close, she looked different. Less composed. A shade more tired around the eyes, like sleep hadn't been on her side lately. She gave me the keys, but her grip lingered half a second too tight, as if letting go meant admitting something she didn't want to say out loud. "You okay?" I asked before I could filter it. Her answer came too fast. "I'm fine." She wasn't. I could hear it in the clipped tone, but I didn't push. I slid into her car while she stood by the open garage door, arms folded, not cold, just closed. Guarded, like if she kept her body tight enough, her thoughts wouldn't spill out. The radio worked perfectly. Of course it did. I stepped out and told her gently, "It's not cutting out now. Could be the wiring, or maybe a sensor glitch. Hard to say without a full check." She offered a smile, an automatic one, the kind people use when they want to look like they're listening, but their mind is miles away. "That's okay," she said. Maybe it was nothing. She didn't leave, though. She stayed exactly where she was, staring out at the parking lot like she couldn't make herself walk back into the night. I stood a few feet behind her, pretending to check a clipboard I wasn't actually reading. She sighed then, soft, barely audible, but full in a way that made my chest tighten. "Long week?" I asked lightly. She let out a small laugh, one she tried to swallow. Something like that. Her hand rose to brush her hair back, but it shook, just a little. Not enough to call attention to, but enough for me to notice. She caught the movement, folded her hand quickly, and cleared her throat as if resetting herself. "You don't have to stay open for me," she said. "I can come back another time." "I'm not staying open," I said. "You just showed up before I locked the door." She finally turned toward me. The light flickered overhead, catching the faint exhaustion on her face. Her eyes searched mine for a second, like she was checking if I saw too much. Maybe I did. Maybe that scared her. "Thank you," she whispered, so quietly I almost missed it. Then came that moment again, like gravity nudging the space between us. She reached for her keys, and this time our fingers didn't just brush. They rested, bare seconds too long, neither of us pulling away. The lights flickered again. She finally stepped back, almost sharply, clearing her throat as if something had slipped. But the imprint of her touch stayed with me long after she left. The storm wasn't supposed to hit until morning, but by the time I finished closing the shop, rain hammered against the metal roof like handfuls of gravel. I was shutting down the last of the breakers when headlights sliced through the downpour. Her car. Of course, she stepped out with her coat pulled tight, hair already damp at the ends. She didn't rush inside, just stood there for a second, breathing like she'd argued with herself all the way here. "I know you're closing," she said over the rain, "but the dashboard lights are flickering again." I didn't believe that for a second, but I opened the door wider anyway. Inside, the shop felt smaller than usual, quieter. Her damp coat carried the smell of rain and something faintly floral. I tried not to notice how close she was standing to me, how the air seemed different with just the two of us. "I'll check it," I said. "You can wait here." She nodded, brushing wet strands back behind her ear. Her hand trembled just slightly, same as last time. While I looked under her dashboard with a flashlight, she wandered the shop again, but slower this time. Less curious, more distracted. When I glanced up, she was studying an old Polaroid pinned to the wall. Me and the guys, covered in grease, celebrating a rebuilt engine. "You look different there," she said quietly. "Different how?" She shrugged. "Lighter." I didn't know what to say to that. I also didn't know how she noticed something that small. The storm growled outside, the power flickered, and for a second we were both standing in the half-dark, listening to the rain slam against the shutters. When the lights steadied, she was closer than before, almost beside me, like the dark had pushed her toward the only thing that felt solid. "I didn't mean to bother you," she murmured. "You're not. Too quick. Too honest." Her eyes lifted. There was something raw in them, fatigue, maybe, or the weight of a decision she still hadn't made. I wanted to ask what was going on, why she really came, why she always hesitated to leave. But before I could, her phone buzzed sharply in her pocket. She flinched. Not a small flinch, a startled, irritated one. She didn't answer immediately. Let it ring. Let it vibrate a second time. Only after the third buzz did she turn slightly away and mutter a clipped, "Hello." Her voice dropped. Not soft, controlled. Too controlled. "No, I told you I'm busy. No, I don't care what he said. Don't. Just don't start this tonight." I pretended to be focused on a fuse I'd already checked twice, but her words were slipping through the quiet like cracks in a wall. When she hung up, she stayed facing the wall for a few seconds, breathing through her nose like she needed to steady herself before turning around. "You okay?" I asked gently. She didn't lie this time. "Not exactly. I don't know," she said. That was the closest she'd come to admitting anything to me. I wiped my hands on a rag and stepped closer, not touching her, just close enough that she didn't have to turn all the way around to know I was near. The storm roared. The lights hummed. And for a moment, neither of us moved. Her hand rose, slowly, like she was about to touch my arm. Then she stopped an inch away, fingers trembling in the air between us. "Don't," she whispered, to herself, not to me. But she didn't step back, and neither did I. After the storm night, everything between us shifted, too quietly to name, but loud enough that pretending didn't work anymore. I saw her again 2 evenings later. She came in just before closing, like always, except she didn't bring her car. No excuse. No repair. She just walked in, exhaled slowly, and leaned her back against the counter like she'd run out of places to go. "You're early," I said. "I had nowhere else to be," she replied, staring at a spot on the floor instead of me. That was new. The shop was warm from the heaters, but she rubbed her hands together like she was cold. Her nails were short, her knuckles slightly red. I noticed things like that now, little signs of tension she tried to hide. I waited for her to say something. She didn't. The silence stretched so long it became uncomfortable, then familiar, then strange again. She finally inhaled, deep and uneven. "Can I sit?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, pulling over a stool. "Of course." She sat with her elbows on her knees, fingers laced, head down. I leaned against the workbench a few feet from her, hands shoved into my pockets so I wouldn't do something stupid like reach out. Another long silence. Then she said, "I've been thinking." Those 3 words tightened something in my chest. "About what?" "About this." She gestured weakly between us. "Whatever this is." I swallowed hard. "I don't know either." "That's the problem," she whispered. Her voice wasn't sharp. It was tired. Bone tired. The kind of tired that doesn't come from lack of sleep. She lifted her head, finally meeting my eyes. Her expression was unreadable at first, then painfully clear. "This isn't normal," she said. "You know that, right?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I know. But we keep." She stopped, pressing her lips together. "We keep acting like there's nothing happening, and I don't even know what happening means, but She broke off again, frustrated with her own words. I took a step closer without realizing it. "You don't have to explain anything." "Yes, I do," she said quietly. "Because I don't understand myself right now." The honesty in her voice felt like someone pulling a rug from under me. She looked away again, eyes narrowing slightly like she was studying something far off. "I shouldn't be here," she said. "Not like this. Not with you." "I didn't ask you to come," I said softly. "You just do." That made her let out a breath, half laugh, half sigh. "Exactly." Her fingers brushed the edge of the counter, restless. She tapped once, twice, then let her hand fall still. "Tell me," she said suddenly, eyeing me with something close to desperation. "What are we doing?" I opened my mouth, closed it, then tried again. "I don't know, but you keep showing up. And I keep." I shrugged, uselessly. "Being here." She studied my face, searching for something I wasn't sure I had. Her throat bobbed once, like she was about to speak, but nothing came out. The silence pressed against us, dense, electric, impossible to step back from now. She stood slowly, smoothing the wrinkles of her shirt even though it didn't need smoothing. She was trying to steady herself. She wasn't succeeding. Then she looked at me, really looked at me, and the air in the room tightened. "Tell me to stop coming," she whispered. "Please." I didn't move. I didn't breathe. And the silence between her plea and my answer, was louder than any touch either of us had ever avoided. I didn't tell her to stop coming. and she didn't stop. But the next time she walked into the shop, she didn't look composed or guarded or carefully distant. She looked undone, not messy, just stripped of whatever invisible armor she'd been carrying for weeks. She held her phone in her hand, screen dimmed, not looking at it, but gripping it like it weighed more than it should. "Is everything okay?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked past me and sat on the same stool she'd used last time. Same posture, same elbows on her knees. But this time, her hands weren't steady. "I wasn't going to come here," she said finally. "I drove around for an hour." "Just around. What happened?" She didn't look up. "I got a voicemail." She pressed the phone into her palm. The tendons in her wrist tightened, like she was trying to keep herself from shaking. I waited. I'd learned that pushing her only made her shut down. "It was from my ex," she said, voice thin. "He sent me a photo. One I didn't expect." She finally turned the screen toward me. A boy, maybe 17, smiling awkwardly at the camera, holding a backpack. Dark hair, nervous posture, something earnest in his eyes. "This is my son," she said. "Luca." I blinked. "You never mentioned." "I know," she cut in. Not angry, embarrassed. "He's studying abroad this year. His father took the photo earlier today before dropping him at the airport. He sent it to me with a message saying that he's grown, that he looks older now, that I should see how much time I've missed." She swallowed. "Hard. Why would he say that?" I asked softly. Her laugh was shaky. "Because he knows it hurts." Silence curled around us. Heavy. Careful. She took the phone back, staring at the photo like it might dissolve in her hands. "I wasn't a perfect mother," she said quickly, as if defending herself from a charge I hadn't made. "I loved him. Of course I did, but I was young. And I worked a lot. And his father," she exhaled sharply. "He's always known how to make me feel like I failed." She covered her face with her hands. Just for a moment. Just long enough for me to see the crack in the woman who always controlled every breath, every word, every step. "I don't know why I came here," she whispered. "I think I just didn't want to be alone when I heard it." Something shifted in my chest then, not pity, not protectiveness, just a strange, painful pressure. Like seeing a shape in the dark you'd never noticed before. "You're not alone," I said. She looked up fast, too fast, eyes shining with something she tried to blink away. "Don't say that," she murmured. "You're too young to mean it." "I do mean it," I said quietly. Her breath hitched. The tiniest sound. Barely there. She turned the phone over so the screen faced down. "He used to stand like you," she said suddenly. Hands in pockets. Shoulders tense. Like he was bracing for something that might not even happen. I didn't know what to do with that sentence. Or the way she watched me after saying it. Like the comparison scared her as much as it softened her. She stood slowly, fingertips brushing the counter to steady herself. "I shouldn't have shown you that," she whispered. "But I needed someone who wouldn't use it against me." The room felt impossibly still. And then, barely audible, she added, "You were the first person I thought of. The day everything softened between us wasn't dramatic. No storm. No late-night panic. No broken car to fix. Just a slow winter dusk, the kind where the sky fades into a tired blue and the world feels quieter than it should." She came in without knocking. Not rushed, not flustered. Almost calm, but in the way someone is calm after deciding they're done running from themselves. She closed the door gently behind her and leaned her back against it, watching me sweep the floor. "You're early," I said. "You're always here," she answered. Not teasing, just stating a fact she seemed to find comforting. She stayed by the door a few seconds, breathing evenly, like she needed to let the silence settle before walking further into the room. When she finally did, her steps were slow, deliberate. Not hesitant, just thoughtful. "I thought about what you said," she murmured. "I said a lot of things," I replied. "No," she said softly. "Just one." Her gaze flicked up, steady for once. "You said I wasn't alone." I didn't move, broom still in hand, dust gathered in a small pile by my shoe. "And you didn't like that?" I said. She shook her head. I didn't know what to do with it. She walked past me then, fingers trailing over the cluttered workbench, stopping beside the stool she always used. She didn't sit. She just stood there, fingertips tapping lightly against the metal surface. I'm not used to being seen without someone trying to fix me, she said. Or judge me. Or want something from me. I don't want anything, I said. Her eyes closed briefly, like the honesty hit harder than it should. That's exactly what terrifies me, she whispered. The room felt too warm suddenly. Too still. I set the broom aside. Nadia, I said carefully. You can tell me what's going on. She opened her eyes, and something was different. Not broken, released. Like she'd been carrying a weight that finally slipped. I'm tired, she said. Not in the physical sense. Just tired of pretending I don't look for you when I'm driving past this place. My pulse jumped, but I stayed where I was. And I don't know what to call this, she continued, gesturing between us. I don't know if it's wrong or stupid or temporary. I just know I feel quieter when I'm here. Quieter. Not happier. Not safer. Quieter. I stepped closer, slow enough that she could stop me at any moment. She didn't. When I reached her, I didn't touch her, not yet. I just stood beside her, both of us staring at the scratches on the workbench like they were easier to understand than whatever we were doing. You don't have to name it, I said quietly. She exhaled, the breath shaky but real. That's the first thing anyone said to me in years that didn't make things harder. A long stretch of stillness followed. Warm, fragile, almost weightless. Then she shifted, just slightly, and her hand, resting on the edge of the bench, tilted toward mine. Not reaching, not asking, just waiting. I placed my hand next to hers, close enough that our fingers grazed, barely touching. She didn't move away. Her breath caught, but she didn't pull back. We stood like that in silence, two people not confessing anything, not promising anything, just finally letting the truth sit between us without fighting it. She let her head tip forward, resting gently against my shoulder. A small, tired motion. An earned one. No declarations. No drama. Just a quiet collapse that felt like honesty. She whispered, almost too soft to hear, "Don't go anywhere." And I didn't. I tell this part differently, not from the heat of the moment, but from the distance of time. Weeks have passed since that night when everything finally settled, when the air between them stopped pretending it was just air and became something heavier, quieter, truer. Looking back now, I realize the shift didn't happen in one dramatic confession or a sweeping gesture. It happened in the way they sat beside each other afterward, saying nothing, letting the truth rest between them like something fragile and long-awaited. It happened in their softened eyes, in the gentleness with which they allowed themselves to be seen. What changed in her was subtle but profound. She stopped bracing for impact every time she cared about someone. There was a softness returning to her, a willingness to stay, even when staying made her vulnerable. She smiled more freely. She listened without fear. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she needed to apologize for the way her heart worked. What changed in him was slower, deeper. He stopped pretending he didn't feel things. The quiet, controlled version of himself, the one who always stayed just a little out of reach, finally stepped forward. He became more present, more open, more human. Not perfect, just real. And for him, that was everything. Their connection didn't turn into fireworks or fairy tale declarations. It settled, gently, like two tired souls finally letting themselves rest in the same room, on the same wavelength, with the same breath. They didn't rush it. They didn't define it in panic. They just let it evolve, day by day, moment by moment. Some mornings, they'd sit together with their coffee, knees barely touching, saying nothing, and that silence felt like a promise. Other days, they teased each other the way they always had, but now there was a softness beneath the jokes, a mutual understanding that neither of them was going anywhere. And sometimes, when the world got too loud, they found comfort in just sitting close, sharing the kind of quiet that only exists when two people finally understand each other. And the beautiful thing? They didn't become perfect. They became honest. That was the real ending, their honesty. Not the love story people expect, but the one people secretly hope for. Slow, steady, emotionally earned. If I had to sum up what I learned watching them, it's this: love doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it appears in the aftermath, in the long exhale, the softened shoulders, The way two people finally stop running from themselves. Sometimes, the afterglow is the real story. And maybe that's enough. If this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?